Let's talk about Megadoc. If unfamiliar, Megadoc is a documentary film directed by Mike Figgis, director of Leaving Las Vegas, Cold Creek Manor, and many other drama films. He was invited by filmmaker Francis Ford Coppola to make a behind-the-scenes documentary while they were filming the movie Megalopolis. So if you're unfamiliar about Megalopolis, the movie does tell you, gives you the brief Cliff Notes version. Megalopolis was a super expensive sci-fi epic post-apocalyptic drama movie with a star-studded cast, personally produced by Francis Ford Coppola himself. The director is famous for 70s films such as the Godfather trilogy and Apocalypse Now, One for the Heart, Jack. He's done lots of films. He's a very prolific director. However, he wanted to tackle this all on his own. He wasn't able to get funding, and this is something that he came up with when he was 16 years old. He's been working on it for 40 years, so it's definitely a personal, close project for him, a passion project, a dream project that he's always wanted to do. And the only way he could do it was to sell a large chunk of his winery business to raise up the $120 million budget. It went over budget. The first news of the budget was 100, then it ballooned to 110, now it's 120 apparently. So he spent $120 million of his own money by selling a chunk of his winery business in order to produce everything himself. And the result was a bit of a disastrous sort of movie. There was a lot of behind-the-scenes kerfuffle, people getting fired, people accusing other people of sexual harassment, nonsensical plot, actors and stuff. And the movie came out, and despite having a budget of $120 million, it made about 11. And it's definitely not one of the biggest box office bombs. Not only that, though, the movie was critically panned. People hated it. Some people kind of liked it because it was different and weird, and it was like, you know, at least his vision is what their excuse was. But the movie, to this day, even a year past its original release date, isn't selling. Like, he didn't release it in North America in any way, so no one can rent it or watch it or see it in theaters or physical DVD release. He's got a big ego problem. He doesn't want people to own his precious film. However, some people in the UK have home video, and it's on Netflix on some markets, maybe. That's according to the Reddits. But basically, he said it's been selling out in New York because he goes to those screenings, so that's why the people want to go to those screenings so they can have the Q&A with him after. But he's not doing it every week, so the movie's not going to ever make back its money. And it just seemed like a really crazy big vanity project. And this documentary basically confirms everything that we suspect. Mike Figgis takes his little camcorder or his little camera, and he basically goes there, and they go through all the different processes from pre-production all the way to almost 80 days of filming, and then it ends at the Cannes Film Festival. So it doesn't go into how the movie did. This is just a documentary about the film being made. And boy, is this movie hilarious. This movie has a lot of intimate interviews with everyone, and they basically have to pretend to be nice a lot. Some people aren't nice. Some people clash with him. The number one clasher was Shia LaBeouf, who was going through a lot of stuff at the time. He did a couple of weird movies like The Tax Collector and other stuff, and he was supposed to do a movie called Don't Worry Darling, but then the director of that movie tried to get him canceled or something, and then he was able to vindicate himself with a phone call. He basically gave Coppola the most grief about always asking, like, what's my motivation? Why can't we change this here? Why can't we change the blocking? And then Coppola would be like, no, we can't do that. It's in my head. It's my vision. I need to have it a certain way. However, he didn't tell anyone, and people had to kind of guess what he wanted. And he had a lot of beef with production designer and visual effects supervisor because he didn't want stuff to be green screen in a certain way. But he only had like a small budget allocated to those departments. However, he wanted them to build a mega city for real or something, or like a miniature, and they basically couldn't do what he wanted. And since he produced the film himself, he was the number one boss. You can't say no, and he expected people to say yes no matter what, regardless of how unfair it was. And for example, he wanted to do like a mirror shot with Adam Driver's face or something, because they could have just done it in post, but they wanted to not do that, so they had to get mirrors and stuff, and they spent all day in this place that cost $16 million just to film there. And you see a breakdown of all the different departments and how much they get. They got a warehouse full of suits for all these wardrobes. And then the wardrobe lady, she basically has to vet every single extra, every single outfit. So it ate up a lot of time, and all these crowd scenes. And he basically, you show that he's a different kind of filmmaker. Maybe he's not quite as sharp as he used to be. I mean, obviously Mike Figgis has to be nice, but like the footage he captured, Francis Ford Coppola seemed like a bit of a tyrant, like he was just there basically saying like, I don't have to explain myself. I want this done the way I want it to be done, and it's going to be done because I'm paying for everyone. I'm paying all you. And that kind of ends up being a problem. One of the guys even said something like, if there's no one to say no to, it becomes out of control, really. I mean, because then he wants to kind of like do whatever he wants, but they're aiming for like a $60 million movie. He's like, no, man, let's pump it up to 100. I want room to grow. And the result is something very interesting, but not considered good, because all the different performances are on different wavelengths. There's a lot of improv in the movie. You don't have to watch the movie to enjoy the documentary, but you do get a little bit more out of it because you get to see the movie first and be like, wow, what a train wreck. And you watch this behind the scenes documentary that's like, that explains everything. That explains all of it. And it's a really intriguing look, and a lot of humor and cuts to make it extra funny. Aubrey Plaza's there having a great time. She's obviously doing a bit or something. And the one that wasn't really there was Nathalie Emmanuel. She didn't want to be seen eating or be on camera behind the scenes as much, so she basically is not there. She pushes the camera away a lot. It's a big distraction. You're trying to film a movie, and when you're not filming, there's a camera in your face. So Mike Figgis had his own little problems because he didn't want to like jump into Adam Driver's face while he was filming, so he asked for an interview. And then you've got some people that are kind of like, they have to be polite, but there's a little bit of a snide shade thrown in there, especially Dustin Hoffman, because he never worked before. And then Giancarlo Esposito was very positive. He's all like, hey, he's got cojones, you have to give him that, even if the movie's because he signed on, he read the script 23 years ago, but then agreed to do it now, but it's changed because this movie, they tried to make it twice back in like, I think the early 2000s, and then 9/11 happened, and then they tried to make it again later. They have some footage of Ryan Gosling as the Shia LaBeouf role, and they have some other footage of like Uma Thurman doing reading, and they had Jolie Richardson at one time. So they've tried to make this movie 3 times, and they finally got to do it. But honestly, my takeaway is that the movie is still a grand masturbatory sort of ego vanity project from Francis Ford Coppola. I mean, there's really no other way to explain it. Most people have a dream project. They want to adapt something that they've always been a fan of, but they don't have the ability. But he had the ability, and he wanted to copy Jacques Tati and say, well, he, died penniless trying to make a movie. I'm going to do the same thing. But his family's trying to be there and helpful, like Roman Coppola and his wife Eleanor. But at the end of the day, there's no prize for participation, right? The product you make should be amazing, and I just feel that, especially now that I have the behind the scenes look, Megalopolis was basically just too much that he could, a plate too much that he could handle, really. I mean, he's known for doing like really practical movies from the 70s, and he doesn't seem to understand how green screen works or the limitations of what you can do with a certain amount of money. You can't build an entire fictional city for $12 million for one scene, right? I mean, the guy just seemed to be off his rocker a little bit, and the only one that would challenge him was Shia LaBeouf. And there's some very humorous behind the scenes exchanges with the two of them arguing, and all the other behind the scenes people. Some people were really chill about it. Some people were like, it's a nightmare working with this guy because he doesn't really know what he wants. And then he allows improv, but then he doesn't, but he secretly doesn't want that. So the movie is still accessible if you haven't seen Megalopolis. It's a really intriguing look at filmmaking. It's definitely, anyone can watch it and still enjoy it. I definitely enjoyed it a lot, and so did my crowd. So I give Megadoc a 7.5 out of 10.